Welcome to the Obvious Podcast. This is episode number 78. We're only 2 away from 80 episodes, Peter.
Believable.
That's amazing. I'm Sonny Macon.
We're only 22 away from 100.
Great math. You do Asian level math, man. It's so good. Like right there, bam.
That's
right.
not politically correct. Now, if you said Indian level math.
I could get away with that. This is not this show is not known for being politically correct.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, I'm Sonny Macon.
That's why we're so loved.
That's true. Well, by some people. Our moms and family members, they care about us.
For sure.
All right. You say your name now.
Oh, I'm Peter Dyga, President and CEO at ABC Florida East Coast Chapter.
You're listening to the Obvious Podcast, where all opinions expressed are our own unless we tell you that they aren't. Or you could be watching the show too. You're not just listening.
Right. Love the show, and we're sure you do. So we ask you to subscribe on any major podcast platform or watch us in action on YouTube. Follow the Obvious Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, X, and True Social. All the links you need are in the show notes. And of course, you can reach out to us anytime at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. And if you're enjoying the ride, help others find us by leaving a review wherever you listen. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Here we are. That's kind of part of the reason why we're so delirious. Today, we're going to talk about how success is contagious.
In what way? What do you mean? By gosh.
So when the country does well, our industry does well. Do you want to tell them what the bell is for?
No.
So why are we not telling them? Because if they can figure out what the bell is for.
Idea, because it's true, right? I mean, when the country does well in the economy, and so we wanted to spend a little time.
Can we just talk about our very first giveaway that's associated with the bell, though? You want to tell the audience? I'll tell them. The bell is for a certain reason. If you're able to identify why Peter rings the bell, send us an email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. And you will get we'll give them an ABC mug.
Okay.
And we'll pay the shipping. We won't even charge you for that. So it's a free mug. Success is contagious, right?
Yeah.
And obviously when the country is doing well, America's doing well, and what I really wanted to sort of highlight were the jobs number that just came out.
Yeah. So I want to play a little game.
All right, let's play a game.
Which is with the theme of being success is contagious. I want to talk about some themes. Okay. And maybe talk a little bit about how that helps our industry and our members. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to say to you that one of the successes in the last year was securing America's border, has that had any kind of impact?
Yes. I'll tell you. For our industry?
Uh-huh. Some people would say negative. And by the way, I look forthcoming, hopefully, some kind of opportunity to provide input on this, because I think we've talked, you and I, about trying to have some kind of a forum, because we really haven't done it well at the state level.
So let's just get the negative out of the way, right? So there's obviously bad actors in any industry, and there's, like anything else, there's bad actors in construction.
Mm-hmm.
So there's bad actors in construction who hire illegal workers, and they pay them below market wages. That happens. I certainly think their business has been affected by the shutdown at the border, for sure. Because there's people exploiting people in every business and every industry there is. Sure. Restaurants do it. Everybody does it. So I shouldn't say everybody does it, but a lot of businesses exploit cheap labor, and I think they have had a negative impact for sure.
So, but I always like to drive home the point that the United States, since the beginning of time, for the most part, for a long, long time, has let in over, the average, I think, is about 1 million legal immigrants a year. 1 million.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
So, this year, we will let in 1 million probably legal immigrants. We've been doing that for a long, long time, even before. And then I also like to point out the fact that, so anyway, why do I like to point out that? Because, a lot of people talk about how uncharitable
the U.S. is?
The current administration, and somehow you've heard this, that immigration is it's part of our duty as a civilization to allow people. And so the idea, the implication that people try to make is because you're not allowing 10 or 20 million illegals in, that somehow the million you're letting in legally is not sufficient, not sufficiently charitable, or not sufficiently, And so
Wait, why is that expectation only on the U.S., Canada, and Western Europe?
well, because success is well, in this case, it's
but the expectation of letting people in, right? Like, why does that expectation not? Why is that expectation not on China?
Right.
I mean, I know China has immigration, but very, very small numbers, right?
That's a topic for another show.
Right. Why is that expectation not on India? Right. Well, I mean, it's just, why is it only on Canada, U.S., and Western Europe?
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to the securing the border and whether that's positively or negatively impacted our industry, the other point I like to make is, if you went back in time 5 years, the first Trump administration, and before that, so we didn't have the 10 or 20 million that came in over the course of 4 years, right?
Right.
All right. We just had the regular level of immigration for many, many decades, in a long time. And yet, and we've talked about this many times, going back to my 26 years and probably before that, we have always talked about the workforce challenges in our industry.
Okay.
All right. So long before 10 or 20 illegals were allowed in the country, we had the problem.
Okay.
So if you were to go back in time 4 or 5 years, am I making sense? And all of a sudden, all 10 or 20 were gone, you would have the same level
of labor,
presumably.
Before
aside from growth, but then I guess it's maybe with the million now, all million are not going to go into construction. So anyway, what we're not talking about is securing the border and what that's done in terms of crime, and that might be a separate topic.
The data on crime is amazing. Orlando's crime rate is down 50%
everywhere.
I just saw this.
Of course, it has nothing to do with any of these things. It has nothing to do with the crackdown on criminals,
right?
In particular, criminal immigrants. It has nothing to do with deporting.
Okay, so I do want to make this point, and this is a point that drives me. I hear this all the time, right? Especially from my friends on the left. Oh, immigrants commit less crime than Native Americans. Assume that's true. We're stuck with native-born Americans anyway. Why would we import? And I'm not implying all immigrants are criminals. I mean, my gosh, but why would we import criminals into this country? If we have our own criminals anyway, we can't do anything about them. England tried that experiment, and now you have Australia, but that's a different conversation.
Right.
But we have our own criminals. Why are we importing them? Why are we just not letting,
Sure. So anyway, I think that gets to the point of securing America's borders and how it, obviously less crime if you're much more intentional about the million you're letting in, as opposed to the 10 or 20.
Publish any sort of a breakdown about what work those million do?
I've never seen that. That's a great question.
Okay.
I would be very, but I'd venture to guess, people who are immigrating to this country in the past have generally, which again is kind of the crux of the conversation about immigration and legal immigration versus illegal immigration, were people that were pursuing a better life. They wanted to assimilate. They weren't coming to necessarily hold on, to elements, yes, of their, the culture they came from, but they were coming to assimilate. They were coming to work hard, pursue the American dream, et cetera. So in any event, I think securing the border and making sure you're more intentional about that, which is the point all along, is certainly I think helpful. You and I have talked about this, and this gets into maybe tertiary topics of 6 things that might be positive in the last year. Not having 10 or 20 million people as a pressure, on housing markets and on labor markets and on government assistance markets and all those things is certainly, again, I think that's a really interesting point. Like, I never understood why the left never acknowledges that. Right? If those 10 to 20 million people that came in under the last administration, they're living somewhere. They're paying rent somewhere. Yeah, I think I've started to see it. You and I have been talking about this for a while, but you've not seen it at all? I've seen some people and some of the people in the administration talking about you can't ignore the fact that 10 or 20 million people all got to live somewhere.
Yeah.
Immense pressure. So Anyway, related is making our community safe again, and we've talked a little bit about that, right? The data is
data on crime is
stunning,
very, very surprising.
Right, and some of it has happened in areas where this president has sent in the National Guard, whether it's Washington D.C. or other places, to kind of clean up crime. Some of it is, I think, related to the deportation of the worst, right? The people that have.
I heard somebody.
The irony that some people will just not admit that any of these things had an impact on the better crime rates. I think there's some of the media is like, we don't know what caused that. Right?
Well, okay, so the 10 to 20 million, that's not like all 10 to 20 million left, right? The number that I have read recently was that something like 2 million have self-deported, right? Under this plan where the government buys you your plane ticket and gives you some cash to leave the country. That under that plan, there's about a 2 million. And if 2 million has had that much of an impact on crime, and certainly, and we all know rents are coming down. I mean, that's a common story. In some markets, they would argue the rents are coming down because of overproduction of new apartments, and that's putting pressure on rents. But in some markets, there has been no overproduction, and rents are still coming down.
And so, what if it is? It's a combination of things,
right?
There's never one things that contribute to. So
there's never any one thing. So
yeah. Anyway, there's no doubt. I mean, the data's there. I mean, certainly our overall country's safer.
Yeah.
On the crime rate. And the only real question is what's contributing it to you. And you can either be, so I'm going to be really blunt here, a leftist and shrug your shoulders and say, we got no idea. We don't know why it's happening. Or you can look at the deportation of people who are, had serious crimes. You can look at the National Guard being deployed, in different areas. Anyway, there's a whole lot of different things you can turn to say, well, it kind of makes sense that those things had an impact, so in any event.
I just want to tell you we're running low on time and we haven't made it to the jobs report yet.
What about rebuilding an economy for working Americans? That's one of the things. In what ways would you say in the last year the economy's been rebuilt for working Americans?
I think the tariffs have played a role in that. I think bringing back manufacturing, has obviously led to a construction increase. Now, construction increase because you're building the facility and you're building the factories. Sort of the impact is always like 2 to 3 years after the project starts, right? So
sure,
I think for sure that's had an impact.
This gets to the jobs numbers, things that we led to, right? I mean, obviously, where are the majority of those jobs going? If they're not going to working Americans, gas prices, I think.
Gas prices have had a tremendous.
Talk about working Americans. Yeah. You've probably seen the data, and again, this is all going to boil down to: do the voters understand this or know this? And the media will do all they can to obfuscate it. The administration will have to try to do all it can to point out things like, real income, which is your wage increases minus inflation, is actually on the positive end, and it is for the first time in I think over 4 years. I don't think there was a single month during the Biden administration that real income grew.
Yeah, no.
So again, that's like measured wage increases minus inflation, because if inflation is outpacing your wage increases, your net income is going down, and that's why people felt things were so so tough, so tight, so right. So anyway, we could go on. I think to your point about the jobs report, most of the new jobs have been private sector jobs.
Yeah, government jobs are way down. I heard like a 40 or low or something in government jobs.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So how about championing American workers and American industry?
I think this administration does a better job of any I've seen since Reagan.
The total reformat of manufacturing and onshoring, a lot of this stuff, and again, our petulant children, are like, well, I don't see the results yet.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you, factory hasn't occurred overnight. It's like these things take time, but it's happening. There's no doubt about it, right?
I was talking to Rudy from D&B Tile. We were in San Francisco recently, also an episode. Last week's episode, we talked about this. So Rudy and I were in San Francisco having a conversation, and I was asking him how much of a role China still played in flooring manufacturing, because Rudy's in the tile business. It's dead. It's dead.
Yeah.
So I said, where are you getting your tiles from? Italy, for really sort of the better projects, right? Italy. And then it was Brazil and Tennessee. Tennessee has become the hub of flooring manufacturing. Now, he said, to be fair, one of the biggest factories in Tennessee is owned by the Chinese. but all the workers and everything they're hiring, well, not all the workers, but a substantial amount of workers are American. And it's had an impact because they're making stuff here.
Yeah, this recalculation with the tariffs is just amazing, and what it's going to mean long term, I think, to the American economy.
Yeah, it's,
Right?
it's
So-
fascinating to watch.
Yeah, somebody was saying, I think during that same conversation, I think we were talking to some attendees at that conference from the home builders, national home builders.
Yes.
And they were talking about, like, for the price of lumber, for example, is that
They're at an all-time high back in 2022.
but it's come down substantially. So.
Yeah.
What about igniting American innovation and technology? This is a favorite of yours, right? Mm-hmm. When the whole emphasis this president has had on us trying to invest in innovation and technology.
I think they've done a phenomenal job. I don't take my word for it. Jensen Huang, who's the head of NVIDIA, thank you, has spoken extensively about this, has given public remarks on sort of the American reinvestment into innovation and the government support that they're getting to get into quantum computing,
The whole AI
boom, making energy cheaper for the data centers. It's had a huge impact, and America will. I mean, because of the policies that have really come into play in the last few
So
years.
here's a good one. What about reasserting American leadership on the world stage? Can you think of any examples there?
Just at the top of my head,
Now, let's be fair. The left really doesn't care about America asserting its.
they wish
Only-
it didn't.
Yeah, they wish we wouldn't. So that's part of the problem. But I think your average American wants a strong, respected American, right? And I think that's in what ways? I'm thinking of the various negotiated peace settlements around the world, the being active
Think
in
about the Iran nuclear facility,
absolutely
Venezuela.
Central America in general.
By the way, Venezuela just dropped off the news. It was supposed to be a quagmire, and it was all going to go to hell in a handbasket, right?
Yeah. So, and then the latest, of course, is in Cuba. Did you see where the Russians were ceasing all their commercial flights in and out of Cuba?
No,
Commercial airline flights.
I didn't.
And encouraging all their citizens to evacuate.
Evacuate Cuba? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, get out. Evacuate's maybe a strong word, but
Wow.
what about forging a stronger, modernized military force?
Well, yeah. I mean, the reinvestment in the American military has been great. I know those soldiers were given some bonus checks or something.
How about just respect for them?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
it's something.
But I think most of the country's always had that. I think the media and Hollywood can ignore it, but I think most of the country's always had that.
Absolutely. Anyway, how do all these things benefit us as an industry? A strong America, I think. Oh, you're catching on. Get into the swing of things. Sonny. So,
Look, our industry doesn't exist without a strong worker.
a strong economy.
Right.
In many ways, a secure country that has to do with the military and our influence in the world. I mean, so much, right? I think is tied to, a strong industry.
I do believe
Relies on all these
I do
things.
believe that we have to pay people what people deserve, and
Absolutely.
this idea that somehow construction is for illegal immigration needs to be put to bed. It's a misnomer. Our members build some of the most sophisticated structures in the world. They need qualified, upskilled labor that understands how to do those things.
Absolutely.
There was and you're gonna laugh at my movie reference. 90s, Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy, they made a movie called Bowfinger, where Steve Martin wants to produce a movie starring the real Eddie Murphy as an actor. I can't afford him, so he hires a lookalike, also played by Eddie Murphy. And he's like, "Where's our crew? We need a crew." So in the next scene, they're standing at the Mexican border with a van. The doors are open. He's firing guns in the air. He's like, INS. This is back when ICE used to be called INS.
Like section in the brain that's just
Probably. And all these guys are like jumping out of the bushes, getting into the back of the van. And I think the perception is that's construction. That they're sending people to the border and they're like, all right, guys, whoever wants a job, get in the back. And that's not reality. Yeah. And that's certainly something that our members don't condone. So
Yep.
I do want that put on the record.
Certainly not on the commercial side, less so, I think.
Right, of course, because again, our members build some incredibly sophisticated things.
Yep. So anyway,
Out of time.
yeah, good stuff. So we hope you enjoyed the show. And until next time,
We will see you next Friday.
all right. So, all right. Ciao.
Wait, hold on. For comments, send us an email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. Now you can say chat.